Four, three, two, one. We are live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
And here we is. We're back again. Who knew?
Yeah, another
So-
week, another week, and another fine artist again today. And
I
boy, they
know.
just popping up like flowers. They just we can find artists just like that.
There
Um,
you go.
yeah, how you doing this week? You get to
This is a good week. It's nice. It's relaxing, traveling and doing whatever, but it's fun. It's good. And then I get to do this and I get to go to Fantasyland for an hour. So it's very nice to look at the art that we're going to see, especially this guy's art. I was looking at his website. So I'm really looking forward to this interview.
yeah, we've got a very prolific artist, Robert Ruby, working in assemblage, and it's like sculpture, and you need to have a lot of different things going on. We're going to talk about mental health a little bit, and we're going to talk
Okay.
about how some of his work is actually being used for a lot of that, his own personal use in that and his health.
Cool.
These things, so yeah, it's kind of cool, and to think that you can do things like that, and there's a healing aspect to a lot of things that we're talking about here, and how we always talk about art therapy, and you kind of, is it tangible? Is it really real? Does it really help?
Right.
And so we're gonna actually talk to an artist that knows for sure what it's doing, and I think great advice. And let's just bring Robert in here. We'll talk about his education.
There he
And
is.
here we go. There we go. Yeah.
There he is.
Good morning.
Good morning,
you
and
doing?
and welcome.
Have
Thank
a
you.
great show, guys. I'm going to disappear as I usually do
Thanks, Stephen.
because I have to do my real job right now, which is sing the national anthem at a cockfight. But I will be back at the end of the interview. Enjoy your interview, my friend. Talk with you guys soon.
Don't
Cheers.
strain your vocal cords.
Yeah.
I'm not to. Cheers, everybody.
Good morning. You always,
Interesting character he is, eh?
every day. Yes, every day. So yeah, this is our second season of this, and I enjoy the odd banter with Stephen a little bit back and forth, pre-show and post-show. It's just such an amazing thing that you can connect with people around the world.
Absolutely.
And with the artwork alone, like connecting with artists as well, but without hosts that we've got, we wouldn't be able to do those things. People that are somewhat committed to artists in a philanthropic way. I mean, these guys aren't making any money. I mean, they got real jobs, and they're doing a lot of things for us as artists, and I appreciate the platform that we can present to our artists and
Yeah.
offer them. I mean, it's a larger audience.
Yeah, the benefactors come in many forms, don't they?
They do, and you have to sometimes work with them and just, they got their little reason thing, and
Yeah.
Stephen runs a little bit, so we'll talk about ourselves a little bit here now. So when I found your work, I think actually you sent me an email one time to send me some brushes.
I did, yeah.
So I said, oh gosh, I had to go through my old brushes and see what I could find. And you know how I hoard them, because you can get a certain mark with that brush when it's, even if it looks like that, you can still do something with that brush. And I thought, well, no, I'll just, and at that stage, we really didn't know each other all that. A little bit of social media linking, and we have some commonalities between friends that we know. And I think it starts like that. And now we get to do this. Like, it's just a friendship that is different, that from away. Like you're in St. Thomas and Ontario, and I'm in Saskatchewan, and so we're gonna, we can talk about a bunch of things. So I sent you some brushes that cost more to send than they probably were to buy in the day.
I've heard that comment a number of times.
Good old Canada Post, yes sir. Yeah, there was no philanthropy there. They were not going to do it for free. Anyway, we're going to talk about, maybe I'll even see where some of my brushes got placed in some of your pieces. So you call yourself like an assemblage artist. What is that? Like, how? What
Well,
do you call that?
it's I do quite a bit more than that, but lately, over the past number of years, and actually since the very beginning, I've always leaned into assemblage art. My approach has always been, still is, to determine what my narrative is first. What do I want to say, and how do I say it? And it doesn't always end up being assemblages. Sometimes, and I do paint, and I do a lot of writing, but lately, and like I said, since the very beginning, I've leaned into assemblage art. My very first show, which was actually quite by accident, was at a small gallery in London back in 1978, I think. No, 77. And I don't know if someone had taken sick or passed away, or for whatever reasons they canceled. So there was a 3-day opening or 4-day opening, I guess it was. And I was asked if I wanted to show some of my work, and it was pretty raw and pretty unsophisticated at the time, but it was assemblages. One piece in particular I remember was a square-nosed spade, like for gardening, and I had covered the spade in foam, and then wrapped that in velvet, and then I mounted gauges out of a tractor on the spade. So that was one of my very first ones. And in 1978, I was involved in International Sculpture Symposium at Harbourfront Gallery in Toronto, where I had a number of pieces and collaborated with some of the other students out of the environmental fine art program that I was in at Fanshawe College in London, to develop the invitational piece, which was blue and green balloons that took the shape of an arrow, all pointing down at Harbourfront Gallery. It was so high, I believe I had to get a permit in order to actually install it. But the pieces in that show as well were assemblages.
Right.
And I've had other shows as well. I participated in other shows as well at Glenhurst Gallery in Brantford. That was all photography. So I always leaned into photography, and my mother bought me my first camera, seeing how keen my interest was in photography. My mother bought me my first camera in 1970 when I was 13 years old. And I've had a camera ever since. And as life evolved, I ended up opening a media art studio in Brantford, Ontario, which with focus primarily on commercial photography for advertising, magazines, billboards, point of purchase. Had some huge clients: Imperial Lesso, Loctite, BISF North America, and did a lot of fashion work. Cleo, the women's clothing store chain, that was all mine for a long time. Stitches, did food photography, Sobeys, for example. For a number of years, I did all those photographs that would have appeared in those flyers that you get in the mail. But that was my means of earning an income, because I had a number of children. I had a number of children to support, but fine art, or art in a fine sense, was always there, and it was a hunger I had. I couldn't get rid of, no matter how hard I tried. So I always seemed to go back there, and it wasn't until maybe 5 years ago that I really went at it. Seriously. Yeah, seriously.
I think I went through that a little bit myself with an advertising career and art director, and being that for 23 years, and in an agency and doing all kinds of things. So, but I think I actually got more work done on the weekend and in the evenings than when I had a full-time job than I do now. It's just like 24/7, and I still go, what have I done today? Like, it's just really haven't moved the needle. I'm going to get Stephen to activate our page here. We can get things started up here. There we go. So this is some of these great assemblages that we're actually going to talk about today. We're going to go through a whole series of some of the things that you've worked on.
Sure.
And it's just they're beautiful. I mean, I talked with Stephen a little earlier about some of these pieces, and he's been on your website and looked at some of your things. I encourage people, go to the website and see them. Blow you away. Some of this stuff is amazing. So these really remind me of two things. I mean, I traveled in Europe quite a bit when I was a kid, and My parents were in the armed forces, so I was fortunate to do that. But the Swiss and the, I guess I'll call it, moving clocks that they designed in Germany and things. These are very reminiscent of that. They just bring that to me, and I'm going, oh my gosh, that they look like some of these, where the people would move and the
Yeah,
times
yeah.
of the day, and they go around and they. How much of this stuff is actually movable in your pieces that you work on?
None of it.
None of it.
No,
That makes things
it's
a lot
actually,
simpler.
some of it's actually designed to look like it's interactive.
Yeah.
But what I experienced, Paul, and some of it up until less than a year ago, was interactive or movable. I had a show here in St. Thomas, fairly big show. I had 21 or 22 pieces in there, and what I found was that they're quite tactile. They're an invitation to touch. There's an invitation to touch them just with the way they look. But the problem wasn't the violators, if that's what you want to call them, weren't kids. It was adults. It was like they had to reach in there and touch them, and which is fine. But some of them are quite delicate and intricate, and they would break, and I could just see the future, or they were worn out. They would be worn out before the end of the show, kind of thing. So some of them were interactive, and I actually had to go through and modify them to keep everything stationary and together. So
yeah. So we'll go through a series of things. I mean, I've at some point a starting point here.
Sure.
But we'll come back to the real assemblage pieces that come up, because we're going to talk about why you did those. I mean, it's quite an amazing story. So let's work our way to that direction. So,
sure.
So this is some of, and I can almost see a resemblance of your wife here.
Yeah, it's actually they're extracts from Da Vinci drawings.
Yes.
And I've been quite vocal, particularly lately, about women's issues, about women's rights, and how passionately I feel about how violated women have been over the centuries, since the beginning of time, kind of thing. And I read something that someone wrote a little while ago, that women, actually, I think it's 49.9% of the population on the planet is women. So, but it was the way it was written is that women are half the population, but they gave birth to every single person on Earth. And I found that to be really profound. And so this particular piece, it's called "Before Every Vitruvian Man, There's a Vitruvian Woman." So you can take that literally or metaphorically, both, I hope. But so that's one, and this is a digital piece, but the image of me in the background is actually a painting that I did. So I photographed it and photographed the painting and included it in this piece.
So the Vitruvian Man initially was a Leonardo concept.
Yes.
You can see how the circle fits within the square, and the human aspects that it relates to. I mean, the length of your arm was relative to the height of your body, all those kinds of things that he was masterminding and figuring out his connections to different things, nature and male and female and shapes. That's what I sort of get out of, I was first time I had heard Vitruvian, I was trying to figure what the heck was that. I mean, I'm in the dictionary looking on the internet trying to figure out what it means, and I understood. I probably took it in college at some point. But, you have to relearn, I think, all the time.
I think so. There's no, although he really didn't produce a huge amount of work, but I think there's no denying that a lot of his work, like his drawings, not his paintings, but his drawings, leaned into, there's a very heavy mechanical architectural aspect to them, and be them aesthetically pleasing. when you look at them and you read about them and research them, they were, and this one too, it was a concept that, and actually it wasn't even his. It was a concept that he expanded on to show perfect shapes and perfect forms, and you know, again, I do a lot of reading, and I read, I'm not sure who wrote it, that went as life as an art. In life as an art, the beautiful moves and curves. And so my objective was always, you know, in any of the pieces I do that revolve around women, is to really showcase that idea that you know, when I was growing up, my father, all four of us kids, my father always impressed on us that the most important thing for us to do was to look after our mother, always respect our mother, you know. And he really drilled it into our heads. He drilled into our heads an appreciation for our mother and for women. And so that's all always had a profound impact on me. The other impact that he had on me, which is a direction that you said you wanted to go a little later on, was that he was a mechanic, but he was also very inventive.
I can see that in your work, but I also can see the Leonardo-y edge about, because Leonardo was inventing flying machines and all these fantastical things at a time. They were very fantastical in the time.
Yeah.
Now we can look at them and say literally, oh, I've seen that before, or that would work. Yes, I've seen a machine gun looks like that. Maybe that's how that bullet moves through the system, or how you know, his devices and moving things. And like you said, most of them were just drawings.
Yeah.
I've heard lots of things about Leonardo, whether he actually stole some of the ideas, and he had a actual architect in the day that designed and figured these things out. He told him how he wanted them, and he kind of did them, and then he cleaned up and did the drawings. So
yeah, and I mean, how will you ever know? It was back in the 1500s, but
never know.
You never know. So
we'll just start about this part. Okay, we're going to go through these beautiful assemblage pieces that you've got. And what started you doing these things? Like, where did that idea come from?
It was because I had an acquired brain injury, which was a couple of decades ago now, but I was in a coma for a little bit and lost 6 months worth of post-accident memory. So that happened at the beginning of August, and my first real memory of wasn't until Christmas of that year, being at my brother's place. So it was almost 6 months. There are little snippets of things that I may have remembered correctly, maybe not. I can't really say for sure, but it had a profound impact on me. And really, I wallowed in pity for a long time. And my brother finally said to me, "Well, how's that working out for you?" Well, it wasn't working out too well. So I ended up at Parkwood Hospital in London, a number of places first, you know, my family doctor and Dale Brain Injury Clinic and Parkwood Hospital in London, and then eventually Parkwood Hospital in London in the Brain X90 program, which is geared towards people who've had traumatic brain injuries or acquired brain injuries. And that was really the point where I started moving forward. And they have what's almost like a step system, like you would see with Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, and ultimately the key was to acknowledge. See, I didn't get help for a long time. I was too proud. I thought, okay, I can deal with this. I can handle this. I really didn't even know what was wrong, but I couldn't handle it, and I lost pretty much everything and everybody in my life. So the first step that I went through was to actually acknowledge that I had a problem and become cognizant of what that problem really was. And at the end of the day, I had really no choice, but which turned out quite well for me, but to embrace it and embrace what became my new sense of normal. And it wasn't worse, or it wasn't bad. It wasn't a case of right or wrong. It was just different. And I learned to accept it and then finally embrace it. So embracing it and healing eventually came through the one thing that I know, which is making art. And I'm not saying it's all good. I'm just saying, but this particular, so the show that I had was called The Mechanics of Meaning, and there were about 21 or 22 pieces in there, I believe. And it was really a story of navigating through life with an acquired brain injury and all the challenges that people with ABIs go through. And you probably know somebody with an ABI, but you would never know it because most of the time they don't talk about it. They don't want to be singled out. They don't want to, often they think they're paranoid. They think that people are watching them, thinking they're not quite normal and there's something wrong with them. Most of the time they're not, but that's the way people often people with ABIs think. And so there's all kinds of other issues that I went through, but the exercise was really to, like I said, to embrace that new sense of normal. And then what am I going to do with it? Well, I made art and I assembled this show called The Mechanics of Meaning. So each piece in that show was a chapter in the story of my life navigating through it with an ABI. And this particular piece, called Always Right, Often Wrong, leans into what I experienced, and I still experience it every day, is that I always lean into the right side of my brain. The injury was on the left side of my brain, which is that logical place, the more mechanical place, the scientific place that offers us often the reason that we need to get through life. The right side is that romantic space, that passionate space, that art space, and I'm sure that it can be, that right side of her brain can be an evil mistress.
Yeah, we're not very good with the financial end of our lives when we're doing green.
No, but so this particular piece called Always Right, Often Wrong, in the direction for those for all those components in there was always to the right. Everything leaned to the right, including that windsock that I made up top. It's blowing to the right. Well, unless you're looking at it from the back, which is the left. But I always struggled with that and stuff like this. And there's a clock mechanism that turns, and it only goes to the right. Everything goes to the right. So,
are these pieces meant to walk around, or are they meant to be wall mounted?
That particular piece actually has a French cleat in the back and can be mounted on the wall, but it's also got rubber feet on it. It can sit on a platform, and it's really heavy. It's got to weigh 40 pounds.
Holy smokes! Yeah,
it's really heavy. So that's all solid wood. And these are a lot of the pieces I've done I'm using their patterns for molds for making castings, that they're from the late 1800s, early 1900s, where they would have created these fabulous, intricate, beautiful patterns to make these molds in factories, making tractor parts and castings for plumbing and all kinds of different things. So they're really, and the patina on them is so wonderful.
So they are using like hardwoods to create the pattern.
From the pattern they would make a mold, and then they would use the mold to make the castings.
Yeah, and they cast. And they didn't know that. No, that's.
So it's always right, but often wrong.
Yeah. So these, we'll just walk through a few of these pieces. These are. This feels very trophy-like. It just has a very perfect.
Well, that particular piece, which is not part of the Brush with Fame series, and it's my brush on top. But the coming out of the tail piece of that rocket up there, which is off of a 1956, I believe, Oldsmobile 88 rocket, is the hood ornament. But coming out of the tail piece is a fan brush, but I replaced all of the bristles in it with these tiny little drill bits. So if you move in close, those are that tail piece, which represents propulsion, is actually drill bits, but it's my fan brush that's up there. So this piece is called Brush with Fame, and I can't remember, I think it's number 14 or whatever it is. But then each piece has a subtitle, as will yours, and this one's called The Near-Death Experience of Imagination. So, and it has a story, that each one has a story that goes along with it. Yeah. But you would actually have to read the story for it to make sense. But
Is a lot of that available on your website that they can read
It
about?
is, yeah,
Okay,
it is.
so
Yeah,
we'll walk through these pieces, and
sure.
people can definitely go back to your website. We will be posting that
Okay.
into the show as well. So it's just, yeah.
Okay, this particular, another one of the Brush with Fame series, Brush with Fame number 11, and it's a tribute in homage to the unwritten novel of Mark Addison Kershaw. He's an American cartoonist, so in a lot of his social media, he actually refers to his unwritten novel. But Mark will never write that novel. It'll never exist. He said I could do it, but it would just be a mess. So it's this elaborate tribute to something that will never exist.
I think we have a few artists that are like that as well. The painting that they're going to do that never really is accomplished, and
Yeah.
it's like looking at that blank canvas. Sometimes you just, I'm going to do that painting, and when I get around to it, right? You keep putting it off and procrastinate it, and you know what it's going to look like, but you didn't put the brush to the paper yet. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I understand that.
It's a very, yeah. This one has a very Elizabethan look about it. It has a very nice.
Well, each of these pieces is, and some more than others, but they're almost like shrines or reliquaries. That they I did one piece using an image of Angela, my partner, and it's called "Help Is on Its Way," and it's probably one of my most favorites. It's actually out in the other room, hanging on the wall. But it's probably one of my most favorites, and more than probably any of the others, it does look like a shrine. It looks like a reliquary. It's really quite beautiful.
Do you do your own little etching in here and chisel work?
No, those are all. They just happen to go together, but those are all pieces from different clocks.
Yeah.
And if you move in close on the center, we can't hear, but on the center at the top there, forming that starburst, are actually pen nibs.
Pen nibs, yeah, you can see.
Yeah. So
for sure. Yeah.
So I was pretty happy with that piece.
Yeah. No, it looks beautiful. It's a nice piece.
This one is called this one is using two brushes actually the piece is actually sitting over here. I'll show you in a few minutes. Guy Denning from France, and he sent me a number of brushes from France. But if you were to move in close on the center, and I can show you a little later on. Do you want me to show you now?
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, if you want to, you can.
Yeah. And I can flip this screen, can I not?
You should be able to, but maybe get Angela to help you there. We want you to come back. So
yeah. Well, I don't see an option here to.
Yeah, you can just turn it.
Do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see that there. Yeah.
Is it all in the frame, Paul?
Yeah, it's all in the frame. Yeah.
So if you were to move close, that brush right there actually goes through that frame and becomes part of his beard.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, that makes sense now. I can see that. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So, and that one's titled "The Brush Becomes Him." Here's the piece of Mark Addison Kershaw's. I don't know if I can see it there.
Yeah, you can see the size of them in scale here.
Yeah.
They are not real small pieces. They have some size to them.
Here's one that we may. I don't know if I included that photograph or not, but this one is also from the show as well. It's called 3 out of 5 Ain't Bad. One of the consequences of my ABI is that I lost my senses of taste and smell.
Yeah, okay.
So this deals with the sense of touch, the sense of sound, and sight.
Right. Beautiful. Yeah. No, it's nice to find objects that fit well in with your, I guess, the conversation that you're having. I think we'll call it that.
Yeah, and those objects come from all over the place. So I don't know. This is another one on the Brush with Fame series. It's another one using my brush, but it's called Lost and Found, and it deals with. It's not quite finished because I still have to finish off the sides, but there's a French identity card for a woman from Canada from 1932, which I modified. It's now mine. So there's an identity card on there, a brush, glasses, and a compass. So it represents three things that I went through with my therapist, who eventually said, you've lost your identity. You don't have a sense of direction. And you need to find your vision for the future again. So these are 3 of the things in the lost and found box that I found, and someone's handing me that identity card.
Oh, lovely.
Here's another piece in the Brush with Fame series. It's actually the first one I did. It's of Angela's brushes, and it has to do with plein air painting. So, like, this one is, for example, this one is movable.
Right. Yeah.
Here's another one in that series called You've Got My Back. It's all in my head.
So how are you at letting this stuff go if somebody wanted to buy something? That these very personal pieces.
They are. It's which is why I really don't try that hard to market them. Yeah. But if somebody, I let one go here just about 2 weeks ago. Somebody wanted to buy it, so it's now gone. And I got another one before, about maybe 3 or 4 months ago. It's gone. It was quite a small one. So here's a sample of one of my paintings.
Yeah.
So I do paint. And here is my Brush with Fame.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, somebody's lacking that hood ornament and just relish that. Beautiful.
Okay, so we'll go back to my desk here.
No, it's good to have a walk around visit of that.
Oh, and the basement's full of this stuff.
I think that is with most artists. Storage is a huge issue for most every artist. Anybody who does anything 3-dimensional, it's a space gobbler.
Oh yeah, and you mentioned that you got work of your own covered in plastic sitting on your deck.
I have stuff. It's okay for the weather outside, what it is, but just to keep it clean, and you got to plasticize. Yeah, you run out of room, and I've got a studio that's over full, and you got to make decisions, but you can't throw certain things away. They're just things.
No.
Yours is, well, you get into a point where you are somewhat of a collector of things that you're looking for, and whether it's at a garage sale or a antique store or where do you source your materials? Do people give you stuff, or do you ask?
Yeah, it's people. I got a woman maybe about 15 kilometers from here, and she sells a lot of stuff online, but she almost knows what I like, and when she gets something interesting, she'll call me and charges me a nominal fee for it, usually not very much, and she'll actually deliver it right to the door. Other people will, they'll give me things, and I think on my website it says I make things from things I find, things people give me, and things left over from other things, and people know that. Like my friend Jan, actually, here's something right here.
Okay, beautiful.
The little tower crane. She knows what I like. I got a magnifier. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
A magnifier, a jeweler's magnifier. And
you do need that.
So these are going to be part of a piece called "All That Glitters, Third Eye Blind."
Yeah.
Here I got a little, and here is a glass eye. A real glass eye.
A real glass eye. Wow. Yeah. The guy who's missing that.
I got a basement full of this stuff.
Well, we are collectors of things, but you need that inventory, because it just doesn't. You just don't go to certain store to buy it. Like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, but they're also attached with thought. Those things have been, like I said, previously used, previously purposed, designed for previous things, right? And those things all become part of the conversation that maybe you're developing or coming. So they're not you didn't go and make the glass eye. It existed. So
yes,
and it has a history in itself. That's for that eye, where it was and who had it and why it was made, and now it's going to be reactivated again. I love stuff like that that's being reused in a very lyrical way. I guess I'll put it that way.
Sure, yeah, and that's the case, I think, with most assemblage artists, I would assume, anyways. At least I do. I look for things that resonate with me. Like I'm still at the show that I had here in St. Thomas. I was in there one evening, and in a lot of the writing, I refer to myself as the white-haired boy. And a gentleman, probably right around my same age, maybe a little bit older, came up to me and introduced himself and said, "I'm going to assume that you're the white-haired boy." I said, "That's right." He said, "Why do you call yourself the white-haired boy? How old are you?" And I said, "Well, sometimes I'm 67 and sometimes I'm 6 or 7. It depends, you know." But I still get excited, and it's not that I allow myself to. I still get excited about magnifying glasses and compasses and, you know, and jackknives and those little army guys with the parachutes that we used to throw off the roof of the house. That stuff still excites me. I love that stuff. I got a little set of Morse code for
decoder kits.
For kids from back in the 50s, you know, like this stuff is absolutely wonderful. And you know, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with these pieces when I find them, but if I have them and I'm developing a piece and I need something to say this in that piece, or I need this particular kind of component, then I go rummaging to see what I've got. Sometimes I don't have what I need, you know, and I have to go out and find it. But I went to the local scrapyard recently. I needed a wiring harness because I needed all the different colors of wiring on it, and I went and picked it out. And you know, the guy said, "What are you doing with that?" And I told him. He said, "Oh, I just take it." So people are quite good. And the piece up there called 3 out of 5 Ain't Bad, that deals with the 3 senses that I still have. I was having a problem putting it together. I needed some machine work done, so I went to a machine shop outside town, and he asked me what I was doing. I told him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'll do that for you for nothing. Just come back tomorrow and pick it up." You know, so, and I get a lot of that. People are quite supportive.
Yeah. No, that's very true. I've had, people will give you things, and other artists will give you things too. I think we're all at a certain age, a demographic of us anyway, that we have too much stuff, and you have to. It's nice to give it away to places that they're going to use it rather than throw it in the refuse pile.
Yeah.
And when you have somebody else that can use that material, and whether it's like whether it's type of material, like you got bolts of material and fabric, what are you going to do with it, right? You give it to somebody that works with material and fabric, or you can't just give it all to so-called value village of the world, right? And,
no, I go there to get stuff sometimes.
Well, yes. And this piece reminds me so much of wooden dolls in the early 1800s. Like they handcrafted dolls for the kids, and these arms.
That's where those arms actually came from. I got a whole whack of dolls down in the basement, and they're all amputees. So, but this particular piece called Equilibrium deals with me finding my equilibrium, and it's off balance. Everything, you know, everything. I'm elevated on the right hand side, and everything, you know, suffers on the left. But that's okay. And so this deals with equilibrium, and it also leans into my history in photography. The face of that particular piece is actually off of a view camera. Yeah. So and then the image of me and behind that Fresnel screen is actually almost split in two. It's more enhanced on the right hand side. Left hand side is a little bit more dull. So like I said, each piece deals with, like I said, it's a chapter out of my story navigating through life of the Navy eye.
So is the left-right issue always an issue on a daily basis?
Yes.
What you're going through. So
yeah, always.
Yeah. So it's,
and the you know, which also leans into which in turn leans into executive functioning. I think I might have told you I was vacuuming here in the study a little while ago, and I had the small vacuum sitting on top of the couch, and I was vacuuming off the light shade, and then I had to vacuum off the top of the desk on the left side. I could not figure out for the life of me how to get to the other side of the vacuum cleaner. I had to go outside for maybe 10 minutes, come back in, and finally realized I didn't have to get to the other side of the vacuum. I had to put the vacuum on the other side of me. But common sense and it's just, you know, so that executive functioning is a challenge, but there's also issues with the left side of my brain in other ways too. Like when I'm having a shower, I usually take a cloth and I use my little finger to clean my ears, as probably most people do. But on my left side, I can't tell which one is my middle finger. So I have to use my right hand to determine which is my middle finger, and then away I go. So these are all little things that
Yeah.
you
do naturally.
You just learn to live with it.
Normally we don't even think about it as a person that hasn't had that issue, right? They just go ahead and do it, right?
Yeah.
But to realize that so these pieces of works, they're basically therapy. A lot of it is.
They are.
Yeah.
They are, and they were hopefully, and still are, therapy for other people too, because ABIs are called the invisible injury. You don't see them. People aren't walking around wearing sandwich boards, and they're not, they don't. Well, unless it's a fresh injury, they don't walk around for the rest of their lives saying with a cast on. You don't see it,
Right.
So and because people often ignore the symptoms and just look at that person and think, well, what's wrong with them? Well, it's you need to be patient if you're living with somebody with an ABI, or know somebody with an ABI. The patience. So this particular piece is called incremental ascent, and the background is generated, and I produced the background and designed the background from a Paul Klee painting. Mm-hmm. And the helium balloon, it's me, the mannequin there leans to the right, and it represents me leaning into the right side of my brain, but the blue lines across the background, but that blue line actually extends around the bottom of the balloon and the third one up. So it's called incremental ascent, and it addresses that step program that you go through.
Mm.
So it was a fun piece to do.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the one called Help Is On Its Way. So it's quite big too. It's about maybe 30 inches tall.
Holy smokes! Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite big. And the little guy lying on that platform at the bottom, he's not right on the ground, but he's close to it. Represents me having fallen off the roof of the house, and the little guy was actually a gift to this gentleman from Hamilton who went through the Alcoholics Anonymous program and has spent most of his life as a recovering alcoholic. But it was given to him by a friend to remind him of where he was at one point, and he gave it to me.
Oh.
So the background is a photograph that I shot of Angela, and she's looking down at me. And I suppose really Angela appearing in my life was part of the help that I needed. Angela suffers from deals with her issues of her own. She's part of the Me Too movement, auditory processing disorder. So we have a lot of patience with each other. Every once in a while we get a little bit impatient, but we don't think we've ever really argued in the 8 years that we've been together. So we have a lot of patience for each other, but this is probably my favorite piece. So in essence, it was saying that here she is, and help is on its way, and it's coming from her. And in a lot of ways it really did.
Yeah. But I think it's a give and take anyway. Is it not in a relationship? I think there's
absolutely. And both sides of that piece are all gold leaf. She taught me how to do gold leafing.
Yeah. I haven't done very much of that. It's a delicate process.
You don't want to sneeze, or you don't want anybody to open up the door because the stuff goes everywhere.
Tweezers and
yeah.
But no, I'm not going down that road. I like gold, but I don't like gold that much that I want to be dealing. I know a number of artists that paint, and they actually do their oil paintings, and they incorporate the gold leaf into the pieces of work, and they quite.
This painting of me in the background there.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. That's
I keep going the wrong way.
Oh, you're fine. We can see it over the one side there. Yeah, back the other way.
So it's actually quite huge. It's 3 feet by 3 feet, and that's all gold leaf in the background over me.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, so she had a lot of gold leafing on that one. The portrait that she did of me.
So it is valuable actually in weight. Right? It's gold.
Yeah. And metaphorically and literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a piece that's based on 2 paintings that I did. So I did digital captures of them and assembled them, and it's called Hope. And I think after Angela, we were friends at first for a year before we became a couple, and from the get-go, I think that getting to know her and her becoming such a huge part of my life gave me hope, because she had issues, I had issues, and we both sort of understood each other's issues. And there were a lot of people in my life that didn't understand them. The piece before that with I think it was called Departures. I think you just showed it. I can't remember.
That's the piece before.
Not that one. No. Before that.
Run back.
That one. That one's called Departures, and that mannequin in the foreground represents me, and where the other mannequins are, that's actually inset, and those other mannequins are all looking away from me. It's called Departures, but they represent all kinds of a number of people in my life that, and some of them I deserved it, some of them I didn't, but that represents people departing from my life.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a painful one to make.
Yeah. No, they're very, very personal pieces.
Yeah.
I think, but I think sometimes the artists need to look that way. I mean, it's important to really put yourself into your pieces, whether it's assemblage or sculpture, or if you can do it. Like some people are still reserved and they produce pieces of work for its own personal beauty or whatever. Design something for a specific space, so rather than doing the piece and then make a space for it, right? So they have 2 different reasons for doing things. But
this particular piece here, it's not and was never to say that Angela saved me. She didn't save me. She helped me to save myself.
There's support there, I think.
It is. It's like the movie Jerry Maguire, where he says, "You complete me." Well, I've never once agreed with that. I found that actually kind of offensive, because I don't think people need other people to complete them. They just need or want people in their lives to share their completeness. And it's,
right.
This one's called Sideshow, and it refers to what people with ABIs often feel, is that they're being looked at. They're very self-conscious about. They know that they're different. They know that they have a different sense of normal. What stage of acknowledgement they're at is different for all of them. Some people go through life through their entire lives without ever really acknowledging or embracing that different sense of normal. But very often, even at different stages, people feel like they're being looked at, like they're paranoid about that. They're always they literally or metaphorically looking over the shoulders to see if somebody's noticing them. And so this one's called. So this was a fun one. Those are actually, it's quite a big piece. Those wheels are wagon wheels, 120 years old. I was told by the guy I got them from, because he knew where they came from. Wooden wagon wheels, hand carved. And the base is from floorboards at one of the houses my brother owns here, and different pieces, and those little fence around the bottom there. Those are spindles off of a rocking chair. The doll in the background was this sort of primitive doll that I got in a group of other dolls that I bought, and I built the piece around the top there. That fabric, I hand painted that and sewed it all. So I have my own sewing machine. My mom bought me my first sewing machine when I was 14.
Well, good for you. Yeah.
So and then the background behind him is the Fresnel screen off of an old view camera again. And there's X-rays in the background, so the background is actually translucent. If you put light behind it, you can see the what resembles X-rays, from.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful piece. It's So, and I'd say this is a working piece. I mean, it rolls, I would imagine, with the wheel.
Actually, it doesn't. It doesn't roll, and it did roll, but people wanted to know. People kept touching the wheels and moving them around, and it was sitting. And people kept going at those dials trying to move things, you know. And I knew that within a short period of time it would be broken. So
Yeah.
if somebody were to buy that piece, what they do with it is up to them. But it's not meant to be moved.
Yeah, no, they're very delicate pieces, and they're
Yeah.
you know they're beautiful. It feels very
Thanks, Paul.
yeah.
This one's called Stress Test, and it deals with. It's quite big too. I think it's about 20 by 30.
Wow.
Really big. So it deals with us putting stress on ourselves. So the mannequin there is holding a pole, pushing that pulley away, causing more tension on the belt there, which is just a piece of an inner tube out of a bicycle that I cut into a long strip. And then there's a spring mechanism on there. Those are wheels off of a Meccano set. The bottom, I'm not sure what that is, but it's threaded, and if you pushed on it, it would push it would create more tension yet from the other side. So, but it's all by our own doing, and that happened a lot. I would put stress on myself to do things that I couldn't do, and it wasn't until I realized that and accepted that I couldn't do them that things started to change. So the stress of I would watch my brother, very smart individual, but I would watch my brother, and I could watch him shift into these different gears mentally, and I could no longer reach those higher levels of thought that I did before my accident. And the harder I tried, the worse it got. It was like hyperventilating, and it was. And so I eventually this was through my recovery at Parkwood Hospital that I eventually realized, okay, I got to stop putting pressure on myself to do what I used to do, because I can't. I can do things different.
That's exactly what you need to do, I guess. Not knowing that, but myself, but I would assume that is probably what you'd have to do, is set a different bar and go for that.
Yeah, so someplace safe. This is Angela again, and a photograph that I did of her. This is before we were even a couple, and I knew taking that photograph. I knew Paul. I just knew she for me, she represented someplace safe. So
no, she has a very loving look in this piece for you. You can see that in her eyes.
And there she's holding, and she loves bird nests. She's holding a bird's nest there, and she still goes out and at the end of the year she'll go out and collect birds nests, and she's got boxes full of them here. Some of them are so beautiful.
Yeah, actually, I've seen some very nice installation pieces with birds nests. They were really unique installations.
And who did that, Paul?
A couple of friends of mine. They've collected birds' nests and do installations with them. And
they're very primal, aren't they?
Sometimes they would put in just this nice little blue robin eggs. Sitting in them, and sometimes there's hearts inside them. They do just different things with them. Not so much birds, but they actually just played with the nests, the different types of nests. Sometimes you had ribbons with them. They're different meanings, not unlike what you're doing, but just finding their own voice through another medium, like through found objects.
And they're so intimate, aren't they? Aren't they, those birds' nests?
And unique. Yeah. Well, we had a robin's nest built right behind our house on a ledge off the edge of our deck, and I don't know, what are you building there for? I mean, every cat could find you everything. But it made it through, and it was got in between the breezeway between my studio and my house, and it was sitting up on this little piece of 2x6 frame, and they had this mud thing, and every time we came out of the house, the bird got all fluttery, but finally settled down. There was some leaves came into the tree, but it just sat there, and it made it through the spring and had its bunch go, and then we ended up with this little mud nest. It was just kind of cool. My grandson thought it was kind of neat.
When I said that birds' nests are so intimate, the same thing really applies to these paintbrushes I've been getting. They are so intimate and so personal. And you know, it's called, the series is called Brush with Fame, and some of the artists that are sending me brushes, have a lot of fame, and some don't have any. Some have, and some don't care. But the brushes themselves are absolutely wonderful. The patinas on them are just incredible, and they've got stories to tell, those brushes. Yeah. So this is a piece called Sorrow at the Night Cafe. That image in the background at the top is a copy of a Van Gogh painting, but it's actually a physical copy. It's sitting out in our kitchen, and it's quite huge. It's got to be about 30 by 40. And I have a friend who many years ago, back in the early 70s, and I don't know how long he continued doing them, but he's Dutch, and he did all of the more famous Van Gogh paintings, but he would change something. So in his version of the Night Cafe, at the very back, it would have had, I think, flowers and bottles of absinthe and different spirits and stuff like that. Well, he took those out and he replaced it with a black and white television with bunny ears. So he changed something in every single piece, but the colors and the brushstrokes were just absolutely wonderful. And then what he did is he'd roll them up, and after they dried, it were all oil paintings, and he'd roll them up after they dried, and he'd hide them someplace. And if over the years you found it, you got to keep it, it was yours. I found that in the rafters in an old barn. So it's
found objects, and they actually end up with the right place. The right person gets.
They do. So in this, the image in the foreground is based on a photograph that I did to emulate this wonderful drawing that Vincent van Gogh did called Sorrow. So I put the two of them together and came up with Sorrow at the Night Cafe, because Vincent van Gogh was always a real inspiration to me. So I thought I'd do a tribute to him.
Yeah, I sensed he did have lots of issues
Yes.
in the day, and his brother's support was probably his savior more than anything. Theo.
Yeah. So in those terms, and my brother's been quite supportive of me too over the years. And so in those terms, and I suppose that was one of the reasons too, was because of Vincent's brother Theo, that in their relationship and how that story evolved. Mine was similar, had a lot of similarities. So this was important for me to put all of that together.
You told him to just keep sending money, your brother.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, it's been great talking with you. I never got that darn your .com figured out probably, but people can probably figure that out. And it just jumped around on me.
Oh, I see. Yeah, they'll figure that out.
Anyway, Stephen, and they do put your links at the bottom of the page as well. And
I will add the link to the bottom so everybody can get a Robert's. Roberts, your work is magnificent. There were pieces there. And I'm like, I must have them all. But you
can see his wall behind him. He's got his wall of fame behind him already.
Well, it's funny. This wall has like a few paintings, and then as Paul knows, we've got one of the artists from Canada. We have a moose painting over there. We've got crows over there. We've got other artwork that people can't see that they're outside the studio. So yes, we collect. We have a few things we might collect, but but your artwork and your sculptures, for lack of a better term, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous stuff.
I got that one. Like it's so the space here, the studio out front, my workshop in the basement, plus my brother's got another house here. I've got some of the stuff in the basement over there, plus there's stuff at a local outlet here in town. But I just recently traded one of those pieces for a book press. The ones with the old
sure.
From the late 1800s. Beautiful. So, and I really wanted it, but I didn't have any money. So, would you trade? Would you be interested in a trade? So, it's now sitting in the basement too.
If somebody wants to buy something from you, even though you're reluctant to let it go, what does your stuff start at? What does it go to? How does
I think that the least expensive piece that I have was, I think it was $675, and they've gone up to like the one of Angela, even though that one's not for sale. I had it priced at $3,250. So they bounce around. There's never a question of how much time did I put in it or how much money did I spend on the materials. It's sitting back and looking at it after a couple of months, because by the time I'm done with them, I don't like them anymore. So I have to put them away for a while, and then I go back and look at them and objectively and try and I don't even compare them with what other people are selling their work for.
Right.
But it and sometimes the value of it depends on what day it is.
Well, and shipping something that's so delicate is the other thing, and
it's a big issue, isn't it? Yeah.
So sometimes it's easier just to buy that second seat on the airplane and you fly it down to the person. Yeah, just about as cheap by the time you do that. Yeah. There you go.
Well, your stuff is magnificent. Thank you very much for being here. Please come back whenever. Your link will be below, everybody. So if you want to buy something from Robert, depending on the day of the week, and it's Canadian money, so it's only like $5 US, so you're fine. But his link will be below. You can track him down, and if you can't get a hold of him, get a hold of us. We'll put you in touch with him. And thank you so much, Paul. It's always good to see you, my friend. We'll see you next Thursday.
Thanks, David.
Make sure you step out and take a look at his website. It's amazing.
There you go.
Good to see you.
Hey, good day. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.
Hang in there, Rob.